I'm Aroma Revi. I have about close to 30 years of experience working on a whole range of urban and settlements related questions in India and outside the country. My own background is rather mixed up. I have a training in technology, in law, management and public policy. Here I'm going to be focusing a lot on looking at institutions and the political economy of change and development, also on climate change and disaster risk management, and how that impacts urban development and infrastructure in particular.
Hi, I'm Kavita Vankade. I've been trained as an architect, an urban designer, and also in the social sciences. I have a mixed background of both consulting and research and have worked on a variety of issues. Lately, my work has focused mostly on issues of sustainability and urban form. And these are the issues I'll be touching upon teaching in the PWP. So I'll be teaching basically on issues of sustainability, natural resources, and built form.
Hi, my name is Gautam Bhan. I'm trained as an urban sociologist and a planner. My research focuses primarily on the politics of poverty in Indian cities, particularly in the last 2 decades, and focusing on low-income housing and access and rights to the city, particularly on issues of slum eviction and resettlement. In the PWP, I teach on urban economy and society, as well as courses on housing, slum redevelopment, and looking particularly at questions of shelter and access to the city.
Hi, I'm Shomnath Sen. I'm trained as an economist and management, and I've over the last 2 decades and more worked on a range of subjects and assignments, most to do with the political economy of development and how change comes about in the interstitial space between the state, the communities, and the private sector, the markets. In the PWP, I would be teaching issues on institution development, also looking at sustainability and how cities in the future can grapple with this question of sustainability.
The most important challenge is that cities themselves are fairly invisible in contemporary India today. Cities actually produce close to 2/3 of India's economic output, and we don't recognize that. And the informal sector in the city produces about 1/4 of India's economic output, and we absolutely don't recognize that. So invisibility, I would imagine, is one of the most important challenges. Infrastructure is a huge challenge. And most important, the reason that we're not able to get our act together is there just aren't enough people who know how to manage urban systems.
On the one hand, cities have been invisible in our national development story for so long, right? India lives in its villages in the classic. But the city also now, with the new policy paradigms like JNNURM, like the Rajiv Awas Yojana, like a sudden interest in India's new urban transition, has also then come to light at a very particular moment. Post-economic reform, post the world-class city imagination, you're looking at cities almost as growth machines, as places of foreign direct investment or particular kinds of capital. So the question is, what does it mean for cities at this point? How do we manage in this time of economic and political transition to keep issues of equity central? Not just to ask them sort of superficially, but to keep them central and actually see real change towards redistribution and equality on the ground.
But I think it's very interesting what you're talking about, issues of equity and poverty. These very issues on one hand are neglected, on the other hand they are given as reasons for actually setting our cities on a very unsustainable course. Even the issues of natural resources and sustainability are actually somewhat of ticking time bombs, whether it's on the source side, so whether it's you're getting water in the cities from more farther away, your energy consumption is increasing. It is also equally applicable from a sustainability point of view, that why are we investing in capital intensive, energy intensive, material investing in infrastructure? Why aren't we focusing on services?
One of the difficulties is that the equity and environmental agendas have actually not created a joint platform where they speak together. The movements have been divided, the policies are divided. So even though they're connected, we've not been able to connect them. Theoretically, we can. But they're really seen in the lived life of cities as completely different agendas.
That sort of makes me think about this very interesting point, which comes about as we work on water, sanitation, transport in cities, is that there is an emotional disconnect that people still have of looking at cities as places which are legitimate. So I think there is a very deep emotional disconnect.
Especially the formal private sector, has not been able to make that connect very clearly, and that's why we're having so much of on-cloud development. Because the bulk of the growth that's coming is coming from the private sector, and there's the most significant investment opportunities and the growth opportunities come from what they're doing. The unfortunate thing, of course, is we're not able to generate enough jobs, and most of the employment generation is happening really in the informal sector. Which of course makes cities a very difficult place to live in for a large proportion of the population, but also doesn't enable us to leverage both growth and questions of redistribution and equity across. So being able to try and bring these two things together, and that's where the JNURM story starts, because we're investing in only maybe 65, 70 of India's top cities. There are 8,000 of them.
It's also about what we imagine urban as. So one, they're seeing as engines of urban growth, but the other problem is it's increasingly, it's a very private kind of an imagination. So if you go about in many of the conferences which speak of sustainability, the issues of townships or green buildings, and catering to the public, and increasingly this whole issue of segregation, privatization of services, etc. is coming in, and one must not forget that urban and public are almost synonymous, And what we imagine as urban is very important to how we're going to address the issues in the urban.
There's a whole range of issues of capacity. But more important than capacity, which is itself a huge problem, is that of incentives. And we don't have cities which are charged to deliver or do better. And I'm taking the example of China because there is a strange mix of economic agenda that the local governments have, where here we see the economic development agenda clearly belonging to the informal and private sector, whereas the state is schizophrenically kept to only deliver services. So that's a very interesting distinction in theory.
And I think this is what has happened now, is that we cannot speak of any of these entities as these unified, monolithic, understandable forms. The state, when you start splitting within it, the complexity inherent in them is so vast that part of our problem also is that we're not asking questions that are fine-grained enough. That part of the problem is the spaces to ask those questions, the individuals to ask those questions are still not nearly as powerful as they need to be.
Yeah, there are very few people who can actually traverse both the range of institutions and the scale, and that I think is it really has impoverished India in economic and social terms. I think what we're trying to do here is to enable people to go from a somewhat narrower, more specialist view of the world to taking a much wider, strategic and more holistic view of things, which will not only change their own perspectives, but also change the perspectives and abilities to act of the institutions that they're part of, and hopefully we'll provide the opportunity of people to not only understand that from the theoretical point of view, but re-examine that on the ground in different contexts.
The whole, the point that Aro, you're making about the void in disciplines not being identified with the urban. So we have the urban space conventionally led by like an engineering problem where you go and build some roads and put some pipes and that's it. But if we don't bring in different disciplines to bear upon the urban question, and we don't develop a body of practice, then we necessarily in India will be sort of way behind. So we need a solid range of disciplines to come in and build that, deepen that whole practice.
So if you take the Bangalore metropolitan region, it's about 10 million people just now. So it's grown very rapidly from a garden city of maybe 3 million people to about 10 million, right? But what people often don't recognize is that it's actually an economic entity that produces somewhere between, depending on what you count, $30 to $40 billion worth of output. But the challenge is it's really short of water. It's deeply constrained in terms of that. We're not creating an adequate number of jobs. And then, as all of us know, the infrastructure situation is really difficult. So you're trying to build a metro that might take 10, 15 years to build out. There's massive congestion. I mean, how sustainable is that? Not only from the resource point of view, but from the economic point of view. And who are the people who can sort of traverse this space? But being able to bring it together, to be able to articulate a clear vision, operationalize that into a whole range of things, not in a central planning kind of a frame, but in a much more heterodox a mix of market and a whole range of other facilities is something that we don't necessarily have.
And I also don't think, I think one of the things when we think about interdisciplinarity is sometimes we think about the fact that people will come in, seamlessly agree and move on. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think we're actually looking simply for more complex, contested practices that sit together and compete with each other. So the question of traffic to me is not the question of the flyover, the metro, the next way to zip past, but saying, let's look at the spatial organization that is leading to this kind of mobility. And then let's ask then, the question also of, is it that poor people are moving further or spending a larger percentage of their monthly income on transport than they used to? Is it that, what are the choices available to different people to make different mode choices? So I'm not a transportation planner, but I think the question of interdisciplinarity also is that I know that there is a transportation question to be asked that is systemic, that is engineering centered, that is modal split questions. It's also about coming from a certain practice or disciplinary experience and background, but learning how to cross your T in a sense, right? Coming from depth, but learning how to broaden at a different level. And what I have found, and I think maybe Kavita you can speak to this, is that in academic context and in practice context, that interdisciplinarity works and manifests very differently.
I agree with you when you're saying, it's not about knowing, like being a master in 8 degrees, because I also feel that the other perception people have is not that you have to have a degree in all of them, but also that you have to put all of them together. While it's true if you're doing a planning at a metropolitan scale, but like what you're saying about traffic, the issue is being the interdisciplinarity part is actually to be able to look at one issue which actually looks like an engineering problem, but being able to get these perspectives of sustainability, equity, and being able to ask those questions,
The ability to transit from, let's say, policy that encourages transit-oriented development, to link that to the fact that you need footpaths at the end of the day for people to be able to walk to the public transport, and why the footpaths are actually being lost, because they're being competed away by motorized transport at one end, and people who walk on the footpath no longer have, in a sense, a right and say to the city. And so the specific thing in Bangalore is there's a large number of people who can't even afford to get into public transport, and they walk to work, especially textile workers.
I think you're completely right, because I was talking to a friend of mine who actually works on issues of mobility, and he said, I have all these policymakers who understand all these interdisciplinary stuff, but he said, what I really want is an architect and an urban designer who understand these issues and can then design a pedestrian for me. He's like, I'm getting the policymaker, I just cannot get a designer. And I think that's the point about interdisciplinarity, that it's not that you may work across all scales, but the knowledge that you've gained is actually going to help you become a better professional at whatever scale you're working at, and I think that's an important thing to keep in mind.
The disciplinary sort of challenge here is not only to get people from different disciplines into the room, but actually reskill them through a variety of professional training programs, academic degrees and so on, where you help people discover how they can look at the urban in a very different way. I don't think we've had institutional mechanisms to offer that opportunity.
Somebody asked me the question the other day, give me an example of one city that works on all the counts that you want to in India, and the answer is that there aren't any. Yes. The question, of course, is for whom, and the second thing is in what aspect. So to be able to say, look, this is a nice thing that you can pick up from Rajkot and from Patna and from Hubli, and I guess the skill is to be able to look at those, those experiences and those principles and integrate that into your own context.
The thing about solutions as well is, I think one of the things that has, in a sense, made practice very difficult is our very quick search for the solution.
Exactly.
And we're looking to fix. And planning suffered this for decades because of its inability to let go. That if we just had a clean slate, if we just could make a new plan, if we could just control all the things that were unruly, real, and really human about the city.
But I also think, there's a danger when you say that, of not trying to find any solutions, because there are solutions to some things, but I think the difference is trying to differentiate between quick fix solutions and some systemics.
Which makes us also think about when you have like the Indian urban, the Indian city is, that site of what you're saying, a chaotic organism, and especially if you take cities like Bangalore, where growth moves ahead and infrastructure lags behind or services lag behind, then there is the absolute need to bring in lots and lots of disciplines to bear upon the problem, because only by delving into that chaos that you will be able to figure out some patterns of how to unlock some of those issues. And for that, you'll have to collaborate. So it's not as if the academic and the practice are different. It's not as if community and state are different. It's that we have to find sites and spaces and frameworks to work together and then learn through that. The program for working professionals in urban development, or the PWP UD, is for working professionals, someone who's done a bachelor's degree and has 3 years of work experience, or a master's with 2 years work experience. This PWP UD is for people with any disciplinary background, and that's very important to take on board, because the way it is structured is this program is for people who want to enter the urban with a new vocabulary, a new set of skills, and then look upon making a career. I'd like to underline that it does not require the participant to be from a particular sets of disciplines. I would just add that there is a huge within quotes market or body of practice which is emerging, which would be the urban India of the future.
So the program is structured as an 8-month program, and we've divided it into 3 terms. So the first term is the foundation term. People from various disciplines who come into the program, it's where we bring people on the same page. For example, economic and social foundations of the urban, built form, environment and infrastructure, or law and governance and institutions and issues of politics. Once the foundation goes in, the class actually splits into 2 tracks. So we offer 2 concentration tracks. The first one is economic development, land and housing, and the second is infrastructural services and urban sustainability. That track is actually the majority of the course. So you spend the largest amount of time gaining a depth of knowledge in these connected issues along these 2 tracks. The end of the course is a 6-week project that is a supervised individual project. And that's really for us where you're working very closely with a faculty advisor, forming a question, a practice question, a theoretical question, a challenge that you are particularly invested in. And you have 6 weeks out in the field actually trying to create some kind of output which is your propositive solution to that question. And you may make a film, you may make a business model, you may write a research paper, you may do an actual project place internship. That freedom and flexibility is there. So the 2 concentrations, I'll speak briefly about economic development, land and housing. Economic development, land and housing enables one to think about questions of regional development, of housing, of laws and regimes that govern the use of land, of different paradigms of economic development and growth, of issues of employment and mobility, and gives you also the tool sets to think about these various paradigms and think about how to approach them as a practitioner that is interested in any one of these issues, but always looking at their intersections and locations with the set that they come with.
The track infrastructural services and urban sustainability essentially is looking at issues of sustainability, and I think the different approach that we're taking in this track is actually not to start with issues of urban sustainability per se or looking at the systems within the city, but to really start from a bigger framework of the ecosystem and then key environmental issues which are affecting the planet as a whole, and then from those trying to cull out where does the urban stand, what is the impact of the urban, or what is the role of the urban in trying to answer some of these problems. After which, actually, once this framework has been set, we are actually then looking at some of the key debates and responses that have emerged from the urban, looking at them critically, and in the end then actually developing criticality in students to asking them what would they do as practitioners. So helping them through actual field work and exercises in Bangalore, and getting them to grapple with the question of sustainability and asking them, prodding them, to come up with what they think are the best solutions.
The third term, as Gautam said, is a set of electives, and it's going to be demand led. Apart from the teaching that happens and learning that happens,
you have very small spurts which we call skill labs, which help people, especially working people, get rusted. Having worked for a certain number of years. So they need to do a little bit of math, learn a bit of GIS, go and do some econometrics, or maybe learn about some literary tradition in which is particularly rooted in the urban. So we will have a series of such skill labs both in the foundation term as well as in the second and third terms, which help people to reskill themselves, A, or B, go and learn a new bag of tricks. We will have a series of events where people from the world of academia, from the world of practice, from the state actually come and spend time during the PWP-UD, offer seminars, talks, interactions. So the overall environment is that of convivial learning with a diverse set of stimuli to help the participant quickly choose, select, and develop in this conflated short period of about 8 months.
Just to add to that, we also, in addition to the skill labs, we also have a practica in the second term, where essentially from the two tracks people come together and form mixed teams, and you have to choose either of the two practicas and actually go out there, talk to people, do mapping, understand the issue, and come up with your own solutions, working very closely with the faculty. So whatever you've learned so far, it's also a chance to actually apply it in real life. Yeah, I think although the course is heavily rooted in the Indian context, but I think more importantly, I think the skills that you learn are going to be very generic to an urban area. So while the context may be Indian, you can certainly go and apply those skills.
One of the particular deficits that individual practitioners or even academics have is not knowing what we don't know, A, and not being able to frame a question that individually and collectively can be answered. So therefore, the PWP-UD will provide that holistic sort of set of skills and perspectives to locate your own disciplinary background and then augment that in order for you to actually address some of the larger questions, which conventionally you may have done being an engineer who's building flyovers, but to try and understand that building a flyover has an engineering aspect to it, but like increasingly city managers and engineers realize that the construction of the flyover or the design is related to and deeply rooted in the social reality, the economic reality, the way the city government functions, the way the land regime functions. So now increasingly I will be obsolete if I don't know a little bit about all these related fields.
I'll also say, just to add, I think that, especially for younger working professionals who've had a bachelor's and a few years of experience, I think that a program like this comes at just the right time.
Opportune time in terms of the urban India story unfolding. Absolutely, this would be the great place to start for anyone who wants to be part of that whole new unfolding sort of area and challenge.